So if your house ever gets in the way of a natural disaster, which I hope doesn't happen to anybody, the chance of you surviving is basically zero. But there are some people on earth that have survived natural disasters in the most insane and absurd way possible. Today, I've gathered 3 of the craziest and insane ways people survived natural disasters. From a guy who was the only one alive in a city of 30,000 to a 2 miles fall from the sky. So let's get into it. First, we have a story of a guy who survived alone in a city of 30,000 people. The story of Ludger Salberris. He was born as Auguste Salberris. He is one of the most remarkable survival stories ever in recorded history. He survived the eruption of Mount Pelee on May 8, 1902. It was a disaster that wiped out the whole city of Saint Perry in Martinique. I'm sorry if I'm pronouncing the words wrong, because I don't know how to pronounce them. And it killed roughly 30,000 people in under 3 minutes. So basically, he was in a jail cell that was more like a dungeon, and he was there because of bar fight. So May 7, 1902, Salberris, a 27-year-old laborer, got into a violent drunken brawl in Saint Perry. Because he was a repeat offender, authorities threw him into a solitary confinement inside a bomb-proof underground. Oh my god. Authorities threw him into a solitary confinement inside a bomb-proof underground stone dungeon cell with thick stone walls and no windows. Only a narrow granite slit in the heavy door. And May 8, 1902, 7:52 a.m. Mount Pelee erupts. Mount Pelee exploded violently, sending a massive pyroclastic flow, or a cloud of superheated gas and ash and rock exceeding 1000 degrees Celsius or 1800 degrees Fahrenheit, traveling at over 100 miles per hour straight down into Saint Perry. Within 120 seconds, the Paris of Caribbean was completely flattened. The Paris of Caribbean is a name given to Saint Perry May 8 to May 10, 1902. While the heat outside melted glass and incinerated entire buildings, Salberris' cell acted as an oven shield. Hot ash and radiation entered through the tiny doors, burning his back and legs severely, but the stone chamber trapped enough oxygen and prevented direct contact with the superheated cloud. May 11, 1902. 4 days after the eruption, rescuers exploring the smoldering ruins heard faint groans coming from beneath the debris of the prison. They dug through the rubble, opened the thick stone cell, and found Salberris alive, though severely burned and dehydrated. But the real question is, why did he survive when 30,000 people died? Most victims in Saint Perry died instantly from thermal shock. Their lung ruptured from breathing superheated gases or direct physical trauma. Salberris survived due to 3 distinct factors. Bomb-proof engineering. His solitary cell was partially subterranean, constructed with exceptionally dense stone masonry designed to hold explosive orientation. The single narrow vent in his cell door faced away from Mount Pelee, preventing the direct impact of the high-velocity pyroclastic surge, preventing the direct impact. And his quick thinking saved him. As superheated air leaked in, he peed on his clothes and stuffed it into the door slit to block out the burning ash and steam. What happened next? Salberris received a full pardon for his crimes. He went to join the Barnum and Bailey Circus, touring the world as the man who survived through the doomsday, and showing off his burn scars to fascinated crowds until his death in 1929. So let me show you his actual scars. What was this guy's name? Yeah, so look at these scars. Just look at how bad they are. Look at that. All those burns are from the volcanic eruption. Alright, while those early reports claim that Ludger Salberris was the only survivor, historians and geologists later identified that a tiny group of other people also lived through the disasters in or around Saint Perry. Only 2 people inside the city proper survived the main impact, plus a young girl on the city outskirts and a handful of people on ships in the harbor. First person that survived was Leon Compre Leandre. He was a shoemaker. The only other person to survive inside inside the city zone alongside Celebres. He survived because his home was on edge of St. Perry. When the cloud hit, he ran inside and hid under his sturdy wooden table. The house collapsed around him and his neighbors died instantly. But the table shielded him from the masonry. And he managed to sprint into the surrounding ocean just as the air cooled down. And in his own words, he said, "I felt a terrible wind. The earth began to tremble and the sky suddenly became dark. I turned to go into the house. I experienced a feeling of suffocation. I ran to the table and hid under it. Others who had sought refuge in my room were dead." If that happened to me, I would generally think that the world is ending. And the second survivor was Havivra the Ephrael. She was a young girl. She was a 10-year-old girl who survived by escaping to the water on the city's outer boundary. She was running an errand near the base of the volcano on the edge of the town. She survived by seeing the mountain open up. She ran to the shore, hopped into her brother's small boat and rowed frantically toward a sea cave near the coast. The superheated ash signed her skin, but the cave shielded her until she was rescued days later by a French cruiser. And that's really crazy and that's sad. Next, we have a story of Julien Kopecky. This is also one of the most remarkable survival tales in history. So basically, on Christmas Eve 1971, a 17-year-old girl survived both catastrophic plane crash and a 11-day trek through the dangerous Amazon rainforest. Basically, on December 24, 1971, Julianne and her mother boarded Lanza Flight 508 to Peru to join her father for the holidays. Plane flew straight into a severe thunderstorm. A bolt of lightning struck the plane, causing it to break apart mid-air at about 10,000 feet or 3,000 meters. Julian was sucked out of the aircraft while still strapped into a row of seats. Experts believe the spinning motion of the seats, the air updraft from the stone, and the thick spongy tree canopy cushioned her landing. That sounds like something that should be in a cartoon. No offense. Julian woke up alone on the jungle floor nearly a day later. She had broken a collarbone, a concussion, a deep gash on her arm, a swollen eye, and torn ligaments in her knee. Miraculously, she was the only survivor out of 92 people on board. Julian's parents were zoologists who had lived and worked in the Amazon research station. So she had learned crucial survival skills. And then came the 11-day trek. Remembering advice from her father to find water and follow it downstream to find civilization, she located a small stream and began walking. As she waded through the water and mud, the open wound on her arm became infected with fly larvae or maggots. Remembering how her father treated animals, she poured gasoline into the wound to extract them. She had very little food and no shoes, relying entirely on her grit. On 11th day, she found a small boat and a lumberjack camp. The local lumberjack workers found her, cleaned her wounds, and used a canoe to transport her downriver for 11 hours to a hospital where she finally reunited with her father and received proper medical care. She fully recovered, later went on to follow in her parents' footsteps to study biology and earn a doctorate, and dedicated her life to science and protecting the rainforest. That's very crazy. And last but not least, we have a big wave surfer, Mark Fu, who faced one of the most terrifying and most famous moments of his career at Waima Bay in Hawaii. So here is what happened. I have broken it down simply so you can understand it. A massive unexpected set of giant waves estimated to be around 40 to 50 feet tall suddenly rolled into the bay. To survive the crashing wall of the water, all the surfers in the lineup had to dive deep underwater to let the immense power pass over them. When the wave passed, the other surfers popped back up, but Mark Fu was the only one whose boat stayed with him amidst and chaos. Instead of heading safely to the shore, when a helicopter offered for assistance, Fu chose to paddle back out. He caught a towering 35-foot wave, experienced a massive 25-foot free fall down its face, and suffered one of the heaviest wipeouts of his life. He miraculously survived the terrifying crash, and the event became a defining piece of big wave surfing lore that cemented his legendary status. And now, who else survived? Good question. During that massive 1985 set at Waima Bay, Mark Fu wasn't the only one caught in the chaos. He was out there with tight-knit group of fellow big wave surfers. When the dive broke, 40 to 50 feet wave rolled in, all the other surfers in the lineup also had to dive deep underwater to let the crushing power pass over them. While everyone else managed to surface along with their boats or swim safely, Fu was uniquely standard because he kept holding on to his boat amidst the turbulence, which eventually led to his infamous free fall and wipeout. So here's what I speculated must have happened. While other surfers left their boat and dived under to let the tsunami wave get over it, Mark Fu kept on his boat and went up with the wave, and from there he free-falled. So now, what happened to Mark Fu later? Mark Fu went on to become one of the most famous, charismatic and pioneering big wave surfers in the world, often called the Joe Montana of big waves. However, his story ended in tragedy a few years later. So basically, after the 1985 incident, he continued pushing the limits of the sport, competing in elite events like the prestigious Quicksilver in memory of Eddie Aikau tournament, which he finished runner-up in 1986, and helping prove that big wave surfing was possible in places outside of Hawaii, like Peru. He also became a media figure, writing for magazines and producing television shows. December 23, 1994. Fu traveled wave surf spot called Maverick in Half Moon Bay, California. Paddling out into 15 to 18 foot conditions on his first ever wave at that break, he suddenly took a wipeout. It is believed he likely hit the underwater rocks or reef, because no one saw exactly where he went in the chaos, and his body was found floating 2 hours later. He passed away at the age of 36. His tragic death sent massive shockwaves through the global surfing community, changing how big wave surfers approach safety and gear. So that's quite sad. Anyway, if you like the video, leave a like, and if you want to see more videos like this, subscribe. Until then, watch this video I made about the most craziest and unique festivals from around the world. See you.